With many big manga wrapping up this year and others seemingly drawing to a conclusion in the near future, it is left the question as to what will take their place every week or month for manga fans to look forward to and then spoil when an anime is announced. Well, if you want to be an asshole, that is. But off the top of my head, both Demon Slayer and The Promised Neverland have both ended their serialization this year. And while it may not be within 2020, Attack on Titan's final chapters are coming out right now, and at most it'll end around spring of 2021. And the final season of the anime is only, 2-3 months away at most? But there is one brand new manga from Naoya Matsumoto that, after reading the 11 chapters that have come out by this point, gives me the impression that it has the potential to become one of the next big series, and possibly one that could stand along series like My Hero Academia, Sword Art Online, and Attack on Titan itself as a great entry point for people to get into anime and manga in general. This manga is called Kaiju No.8. I know as well as everyone that pointing out a manga and saying, "Wow, is this the next big manga? Oh my god!" Yeah, it's quite a statement, and one that is thrown around quite a bit, way too much actually. But hear me out here. Kaiju No.8 follows a 32-year-old man named Hibino Kafka, who works as a part of a kaiju cleanup company. The kaiju that I've mentioned are giant monsters that ravage through cities, destroying and killing anything in their path. It is the defense force's job to kill these kaiju, and Kafka's job is to clean up the mess left behind by the carcasses. Now, if you know anything about typical shonen story progression, it should not come as a surprise that Kafka's dream is to join and rise in the ranks of the defense force. Though his overall goal is to fulfill his promise to a childhood friend that he would be there to fight beside her against the kaiju after they both lost their childhood home to them. Needless to say, Kafka is kind of a simp. But what Kaiju No.8 does differently here is that Kafka has already tried, joined, and failed out of the defense force in the past. And now he lives a life where he dreams of being part of the defense force, but he has resigned himself to the daily slog of cleaning up kaiju guts. This is interesting because normally a typical shonen will not have its protagonist fail until at least a little bit into the story. But here Kafka has already failed before the story even began, which goes against the normal tropes of the genre. Though this is probably a benefit of, instead of our main protagonist being in their teens or earlier like you see most times, aka Black Clover, Dr. Stone, My Hero Academia, really just name any shonen in general that's not One Punch Man, which, if that's a shonen, is up for debate. But yeah, we follow a 32-year-old grown-ass man in this manga. But yeah, Kafka has accepted his life of cleaning up until someone arrives to spur him along. Enter Ichikawa Rino, an 18-year-old man who also wants to join the defense force, who joins the company Kafka is a part of as a part-timer, and he does it as training for the upcoming admissions exam to the defense force. Now, of course, Kafka and Rino don't get along at first, but when the two are suddenly attacked by a large kaiju, Kafka rises to the occasion and stands against it, even though it's futile, and he tells Rino to run. But both are saved by Kafka's childhood friend in just the nick of time, though they do sustain some injuries and are admitted to the hospital. This is where the two manage to come to an understanding and their friendship begins, and Kafka is convinced to once again give it his all and join the defense force. But then the plot twist, because if it was just like that, this would be a boring-ass manga. A small kaiju shows up out of nowhere and wrestles its way down Kafka's throat after claiming, "Ah yes, I found you." Ingesting this kaiju transforms Kafka into another, larger, badass-looking kaiju, like really badass-looking, who, of course, since he's the protagonist, turns out to be extremely powerful, as the two men soon realize after fleeing the hospital after being spotted. I mean, if you see a giant monster in a hospital bed when you're walking by, you're not gonna just leave it be. Well, at least if you're in a manga. If it's real life and you see a giant monster thing through the door, you're gonna go, "Yep, I'm just gonna pretend I didn't see this because I don't want to die." But after this, we have a time skip of a few weeks, and Kafka manages to get his kaiju under control and appear human. And then the pair of Rino and Kafka start the Defense Force entry exam, and events spiral from there. It may not be the most interesting and unique premise, but so far the execution has been pretty fantastic, and enough plot threads have been set up that will be interesting to watch unravel and reveal the truth about things. Like, for example, how Kafka has become a kaiju and what exactly the kaiju are, along with the main plot, of course, and Kafka rising through the ranks. But what makes me think that this series could be big is because of the similarities it shares with other series, along with how it builds upon or executes the ideas it has seemingly borrowed. If you ask me to describe what the series is like, I'd honestly tell you that it seems to be a mix of My Hero Academia, One Punch Man, and Attack on Titan. And that mix probably sounds terrible, but in its execution, it is actually stupidly enjoyable. You have the story structure of My Hero Academia, where Kafka goes from being powerless to powerful straight out of the gate pretty much, and is involved with a large group of main characters in a kind of school-like environment. It has the sense of scale that early Attack on Titan had with humans versus huge monsters, and the protagonist being able to turn into one. Though it seems that in Kaiju number 8, Kafka will be trying to hide his power, unlike Eren Yeager, who goes around flaunting it. And finally, it has the overtop power level and humor present in One Punch Man. The manga doesn't take itself too seriously overall so far, and so far it has nailed every story beat, and the art is pretty damn good. We also have already gotten quite a load of color pages, which is never unwelcome. If you're not intrigued by the concept of the manga, or prefer seinen manga like myself, feel free to click off the video, as I don't think I have anything else to say that could convince you otherwise. But for those who choose to stick around, let's talk about where this manga could be heading in terms of quality. And a great way to make a prediction this early in a serialization is by taking a look at the history of the mangaka themselves. As I mentioned earlier, the mangaka for this series is Naoya Matsumoto. They are in charge of both story and art for this series, and this is their third manga. It is also the third time they have been in charge of both the story and art. Both of their previous manga were quite short in terms of how long weekly manga often run for, and both appeared in Shonen Jump. Their first manga, Neko Wappa, ran for 13 chapters from November of 2009 to February 2010. It's a comedy manga following a girl who is taken in by cat gods, and by the summary it seems that she becomes a god herself. This is a manga, by what I could find within the English manga fandom, didn't really have much of a presence or impact, and it was never officially translated. It has a page on Mal, but no score is given, though I did manage to find all 13 chapters of the manga in English on Mangadex, and it had an average of 7.93 in the small sample size of the 41 people that scored it. Matsumoto's second manga is titled Pochikuro, and it actually does seem to have had a small impact, and it has a fan base online. The manga is another comedy about a human girl who ends up in the demon world, and is found by a demon named Kuro. Kuro chooses not to eat her like demons normally would, and ends up falling in love with her, and the two set on a journey to return the girl to the human world. It ran for 43 chapters from September of 2014 to July of 2015, and has a MAL score of 7.38, based on 2,300 users, a much bigger sample size than the 41 for Neko Wappa. It is described by people in the comments of the MAL page as a hidden gem, very enjoyable with lovable characters, and having great art. So, based on the mangaka's history, they have experience with humor that lands well with the audience, which has already been shown in parts of Kaiju number 8 so far, but everything else is brand new to them, including the action side and just, well, long-running shonen in general. Of course, it can be somewhat worrisome since comedy manga and action manga are quite different at their core, but the action we've already seen is quite good for the beginning of a manga. But if it doesn't ramp up in the coming chapters, I could easily be singing a different tune in a few months' time. But I am more confident in this manga than I am in most that I see. Kaiju number 8 shows a lot of potential that I hope it will live up to in the end. The mangaka has a pretty decent history overall, but with their longest manga being 43 chapters, and this one looking like it will need at least 150, I do have some worries about if they will be able to keep it interesting in the long run. But, of course, these fears could be very much unfounded, as before My Hero Academia, the mangaka for that series had never written a manga over 40 chapters, which, of course, gives Matsumoto about 3 chapters more experience than that mangaka had. So, I mean, that's good. Of course, only time will tell, and we'll see what becomes of this manga and talk about it when it comes to a close, because I'm committed and I've never dropped a manga before and plan to stick to that. So that's gonna be it for the video. What do you think of Kaiju number 8? Have you read it yet? Plan on giving it a shot? Let me know. Of course, a link will be given to the official source of the manga if you do want to give it a try. And that's all for me. Hey, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll stream 4 days a week over on Twitch, so make sure to check that out for streams and such. I may even be live right now. But if I'm not, there are always more videos to check out on the channel if you are interested. And without further ado, have a good day.